Welcome everyone. I'm Bridget McNulty, the co-founder of Sweet Life Diabetes Community. I am also a type 1 diabetic. I've been living with type 1 diabetes for 14 years, and I'm here today with endocrinologist Dr. Sundeep Ruder. Thank you so much for joining me, Sundeep.
Thanks for having me, Bridget.
So I have one big question that I want us to answer, and that's pretty much all I want to talk about today. And the question is, why do better insulins matter?
They matter because they work better, simply put.
Okay.
But let's just take a step back,
Yeah.
right? When you have type 1 diabetes, your body is not producing insulin at all. So you need insulin first of all to survive. And when Banting and Best first made insulin, we were literally using insulin from animals and putting it into humans to get them to get
100
them,
years ago, that was what we were
exactly,
doing. Yeah.
just to survive.
Yeah.
So when the body naturally produces insulin, your blood sugar is controlled perfectly, you don't get low sugars. Even when you're not eating, there's a basal insulin being released. And it's being released, to put it very simply, in a smooth way, without variability.
It's kind of amazing that human bodies are just doing that
Exactly.
every time you eat.
Right.
Yeah.
There comes a lot of humility with understanding that. But the point is that if you're going to give insulin from outside, then the understanding is that the best way to do it is to do it the way nature intended for it to happen. So human knowledge and technology were limited back in the day, but as it advances, we're starting to see that finesse on the technology and science side.
Okay.
So from replacing insulin to survive, you then create human insulins, right, that last longer in the body. And then we get to HbA1c control, average sugar control. And if that's well controlled, you reduce complications, right? And you survive longer without complications. And once we started achieving that, you want to prevent hypoglycemia. You want to make the user experience more easy. You want to have less injections. So we've gone from human insulins to insulin analogs, which last longer. Now you're moving to ultra long acting insulins as well, which can be taken once a day. They have less variability, they cause less hypoglycemia. And if a person with type 1 diabetes can use those kinds of insulin, it improves their life experience, the subjective experience, right?
That to me is what this is all about. So I've been reading research papers, or I've been trying to find research papers that tell you that better insulins are better for you. And they all seem to measure things on HbA1c and hypos, but no one's asking what is it like to live with diabetes when you're on a better insulin.
Yeah, I think those questions are becoming more relevant in the world today. They were always relevant but never asked, because the need of the hour with the science was to save lives and HbA1c. So our trials are always designed around what we call non-inferiority. So anything new must never be inferior to something that already existed that saved lives, right? So those measurements are there, but like you said, those are objective measures of outcome and survival. Now the concept of real world studies is becoming in vogue.
Yes,
And
good.
Real world means, how do patients experience it outside of a trial?
It's so interesting to me because, so I'm on the newer versions, the ultra long acting insulins now. And what I've experienced as a type 1 is that I feel empowered again. So the trouble is that when you're on an insulin that isn't really working, you can be eating right and exercising and testing your blood sugar and taking your medication when you're supposed to. But if you're doing all of that and one day it works great and the next day it doesn't, and nothing has changed, it's so infuriating that it's hard not to think like, oh, why even bother?
Yeah.
So that's the point for me, is it empowers people to bother.
Yeah, so the empowerment comes due to the confidence of the technology, the technology provides, that it is closer to that natural human experience of how insulin is released and all of that, you see. And it doesn't give you empowerment. It's that the fear and anxiety are leaving you of some complication of the traditional older insulins. I mean, every medication made comes with benefits and side effects. But I think it's important to highlight that as the technology advances, we must meet patient needs by having that accessible and provided to patients in the long term. And I think that's the need of the hour.
Absolutely. And to me, it's just recognizing that living with diabetes is a challenge. Everyone knows living with diabetes is a challenge. But if we can provide people with medication that makes it less of a challenge and improves the risk of long-term complications, and most importantly for me, it improves the day-to-day lived experience of living with diabetes, I mean, what a joy.
Absolutely.
So why do better insulins matter? because they make your life better.
Yes.
Thank you so much for joining us today. I am Bridget McNulty from Sweet Life Diabetes Community, and I was talking today with endocrinologist Dr. Sundeep Ruder. Please join us next time.